Thank you guys all so much for joining. For those that don't know me, I'm Meg Daday with Keller Williams Chicago-Lincoln Park. I have, one of my favorite parts about real estate is supporting other small business owners. Before all of this craziness happened, I did a lot of in-person events at Chicago women-owned businesses. So took a few weeks, but we ended up, getting them virtual. So our first one is with the awesome Claudia McLaughlin of CMFTO. Claudia and I met a couple months ago, pretty recently actually, and she is more than just a stager. She really helps clients take things from the very beginning all the way through moving into their new place. So like me, she tries to do like the full concierge service. So as a quick example of what she's done, I introduced her to a client in late February. She helped them kind of declutter, get everything out of their house so that we could get a painter in there. The painter came in right before the stay-at-home order was issued. Clients moved to the suburbs. Claudia had moved a lot of their stuff to storage. We had it painted. We listed March 24th, had 3 offers the first weekend. And now she is packing them up and will unpack their stuff at their new house. So really they haven't been in their house for the last month or so. So taking them from that point of getting it ready to stage to moving into the next place. So she is an awesome resource for all of my clients. So why we're here today is a lot of people probably realize that we're basically in like a Pinterest, Instagram market. So properties need to be completely photo worthy in order to sell quickly. And she really helps us do that. So we wanted to kind of take some time and think about projects that you could do while you're at home and, while you're at home and have a little bit of time. So Claudia, we want to talk about 3 main topics today. Hopefully, I think we're going to touch on editing, organizing, and projects that you can do to get the biggest return. So Claudia, what do you think is the biggest, what's the most inexpensive project someone could take on during this time?
Well, first of all, Meg, thanks for inviting me and putting up with my technical, almost unfailing technical glitch that we dealt with before we got on today. So this is super fun that we survived that tense moment or two. Anyway, what you know and what you've seen through experiencing our level of service is a home that is perfectly prepared for market, which basically means today, move-in condition will sell the fastest, and there's no doubt about it. There are no shortcuts, and if you can't afford to paint your home and stage it, it has to be edited and it has to be in move-in condition as possible in order to sell. The example, obviously, that you stated earlier, we handled all the editing, we handled the move into storage of many items because we packed the household up basically to move to their new location, which was very lovely that they allowed us to put things in storage because it wasn't a waste of time. It just meant that the move into their new home would be much faster and much more efficient. Anyway, so that home was perfectly prepared. And like you said, within 3 offers or 3 days, it was sold. That is the most thing. Editing, being efficient, especially now with our time. We're all, including myself, we're spending more time at home in our home offices, if we're lucky enough to have one. And we're kind of looking around in a more strategic fashion. Does a wall need to be painted? Do some minor repairs need to be made? All these things we can be doing while we're staying at home. Editing is definitely the way to start because it's something that is absolutely the most cost efficient thing that you can do now in preparation for a home in the market in the future. So I'm just going to give you a couple tips on how to do that. It's going to definitely take a little time, but I like to parse out projects like a 2-hour minimum or maximum. And that's, you can pretty much, deduce if you're opening a closet, if you need, 2 hours or 1, but make sure whatever you do, you can finish that exact project. If it's a kitchen cabinet, take a kitchen cabinet a day. Those, you break it down into success. So let's start with your front hall closet or a coat closet. So you always start up and you work down. You're going to drape your clothing, whether it also could be your clothing closet. You're going to drape anything that's hanging with a clean, extra sheet to protect it from dust that's going to fall off the top shelf if you have a top shelf. You're going to move the top shelf. You're going to clean off everything on that shelf. And then you're going to open every box and you're going to ask yourself if it's a pair of shoes, if it's a pair of boots, if it's a hat, if it's clothes that are out of season. You're going to ask yourself, are these items that fit me, that are in good enough condition to wear? Or have I worn them during the last year? And if any of those are no, then put that in one of those used Amazon boxes that's collecting in your second bedroom or wherever, and start organizing donations using those extra boxes.
So
literally, yes.
Do you recommend that people start with clothes, or is there something, like the biggest thing that I hear from clients is, I don't even have time to get started, or this is too overwhelming, or toys are just taking over. So what's the best place to get started?
Well, that's very much on a person to person, you're right? It depends on, your area that I say, what has the biggest frog in it? What's your nemesis? I always believe in starting with that. Don't start after work. Give yourself a couple hours on a Saturday. Give yourself a little time on a Sunday afternoon, if those are the only 2 days that you have time to do it. Break it down as a success story for yourself. Maybe even before you hit your desk, maybe you take one kitchen cabinet and you start high, you bring everything off the shelf, you clean a shelf, you only put back the items that you use and that you love. So you're going to look for redundancy. You're going to look for that third measuring cup that is redundant. You're going to look for a chipped bowl that gets thrown out. There's no recycling or donation factor there. So many times we just keep piling things in our cabinets and piling things in our closets, and we don't even see what's in there that we could have used instead of buying more.
Yeah.
So
where I really struggle is with like papers and books, because books, you feel like you don't really want to get rid of. Any suggestions for things that, we may want to hold on to or have trouble parting with, that more than used clothes?
Okay, books are a challenge for all of us. I am a book collector, not fancy books, but books because of memories. But I definitely edit more because libraries and other people in our areas, all libraries need books. It makes me feel really good about dropping books at donation at library. Obviously right now, that's not a viable option, but haven't you noticed some of those wonderful little houses that are popping up, or a basket in a parkway or at the side of the sidewalk? Drop donatable books here. That's happening everywhere. It's kind of this lending library that's kind of a groundswell in neighborhoods, and that's a great thing to do. Or leaving a book in a basket on your sidewalk and saying, here's a stack of books, help yourself. A neighbor of mine recently just put a lovely basket with sidewalk chalk out, kind of for the Easter holiday or Passover, so people could come and take a little bag of chalk for their children to occupy their time during their time at home, which I thought was really charming. So magazines, obviously, you'll be recycling. We try to recycle as much as possible, and that's something that's still occurring. So recycling, anything like that, organizing your books for libraries, or even a friend. I mean, I'm always asking my friends, could you, these 3 books, I read over 50 books a year. Which of these books do you want? I'm glad to pass on current titles, art books, obviously, fashion books I don't get rid of, things that have great memories for me. Unfortunately, I do reread certain books, but sharing, I always think, is the best policy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I always hear from clients, like after we've staged their house or gone through the editing and painting process, that like, oh, maybe we want to stay here for a little bit longer? Or so how can people kind of get that feeling of loving their home again now beyond kind of just the basic decluttering process?
Okay, so as you know, we have the staging to live term that we use all the time. And that comes from 20 years ago when we would finish with a client's home. They'd always say to us, oh, I should have done this earlier. And so it dawned on us, why not make an actual staging to life term and a theory, which definitely lightens your load as a realtor, because if everyone was treating their home as a home that will potentially go on the market soon, then you wouldn't have to bring us in. I'm kind of selling myself short here, but you wouldn't need our services because that person or that family might be a little bit more up to date on an edited home and a well-maintained slash, the deferred maintenance thing comes into play here a little bit too. So that's why at this time, paying attention to those small projects you can do, the best way to proceed with that or a 2-year plan is create a budget. See what's in your pocket over the next year or two that you can allocate for a new sofa, a crisp, beautiful piece that you'll enjoy taking to your future home. Switch out a light fixture or two. Maybe down the road, your cabinets need to be painted to update them from, let's call it a cherry wood kitchen, to something more updated. Obviously, a white cabinet will always be fashionable. Maybe just change your pulls and knobs in a kitchen, right?
Those are probably
finishes. Finishers are always big. Right now, I'm working on 3 different homes and we're changing countertops in kitchens. We're painting cabinetry if it's dated. And we're also addressing something you and I have talked about, painting vanities in bathrooms. We're also changing faucets in kitchens because everyone's using a faucet with a pull-out spray. For $400, you can change that and give it a much more updated look, right? For you.
I really see painting kitchen cabinets to be probably the #1 thing that people can do that's really going to increase the speed, at least, at which their home sells. For $2,500, it's much cheaper to do that than to take a $10,000 or $15,000 price reduction.
Right. Or not sell it at all. Because
right,
I do
exactly.
think the market, and I talk about this all the time, it's not really that the reduction, if it's an eyesore and a comparable property has a painted cabinet, they still may pay more for it, but it's the fact the buyer today doesn't have the bandwidth to look at the value of a property that needs a little updating, right? They just say, oh, I can't do that. Those cabinets are an eyesore. So I say, take away, I always use this term, take away kind of the yuck factor, oh my God, I couldn't possibly deal with that. And that's a great way to look at your home. And again, look at Pinterest. This is when those, outlets really serve us. House and Pinterest. Look at what it looks like today or hire a professional. I wanted to mention with our conversation today, I am offering 10, 15-minute one-on-one consultations for the first 10 people that email me. And you can email me at Claudia@CMFTO.com or call me 312-420-1221. Or please go to our website, CMFTO.com, and sign up for our weekly newsletter. And you will be able to avail yourself of all of our tips for the last 11 years of writing newsletters and the last 6 years of our famous April Declutter Challenge. So you can go in there and type in photos and albums and books, and you'll see what our solutions are to editing basements and garages and crawl spaces and all the above. So it kind of streamlines our conversation.
That's a great resource. I know, I've basically been getting rid of, I said that books are difficult to get rid of. I've gone through and really edited them as much as possible. I do want people to feel free to jump in with questions. So, I'll look at the chat and kind of interject them when we can or when it makes sense. But I think a few things that getting back to like the topic of the seminar of projects that people can do now, beyond like the bigger projects like painting cabinets and stuff, are there smaller things that people can do that aren't decluttering? One that came to mind for me would be changing out cabinet hardware. I mean, you could
Yeah,
order that on
right,
Amazon for $100.
right.
Any other projects like that come to mind?
Well, I think neutralizing interiors, it doesn't necessarily just mean editing, but it means looking at some of your items that are personal that might be dated, right? It might be some sort of inspirational plaque that wouldn't make sense for someone else, or something that's just taking up space. It also might be, like I said earlier, a light fixture that maybe you inherited from the previous owner, and you're like, oh, well, it was fine. But when you take a second look at it, you say, that really is unsightly. Well, I've got the time, I can go online and see if I can order something, that's a quick fix. It could be, like you said, paint is still going to be your quickest fix. It just really is. And paint, a neutral paint color, and I know you're going to ask me for my top 2 or 3 paint colors. We've talked about how you like gray owl.
Yes, I do like gray owl. I think it's very
And
bright and neutral.
right. And also we like Balboa Mist for that reason. It's a little bit lighter. And Barren Plain is another great grayish, because we're really pulling away from the gray world. We are staging, certainly my interior design business is pulling away from grays. We're going to more neutrals. We're doing more pops of color. That's the design direction, brighter colors, certainly not for staging, but if you're really thinking of a new interior, we're definitely considering color with a more neutral background.
So I saw that Carolyn asked, and I know that she did paint her cabinets after they moved in, and they look awesome.
Oh, great.
And I'm guessing she's asking this because she's considering brass hardware, but she's asking what, knowing you, I love brass. So, she's asking what trends are going to have the most long-term value add. Personally, I did brass in my kitchen, and it's easy enough that if in 5 years that isn't the trend, you can just swap it back out. So for something as small as hardware, since I know she just bought within the last year, like go with what you love for now, and maybe, and what I didn't, in my place, I didn't do a brass faucet. I just did like the stainless and matching appliances and not the hardware.
If that's your direction, I think it is limiting. I think the general public for resale will not understand brass on any level. Brass, unless it's solid, I think you're going to have there's going to be a wear, W-E-A-R factor to it. Is it going to hold up? Sometimes brass oxidizes with heat. It's not something that you can't, like Meg said, it's not like you can't change it out, but that would be of consideration. Polished nickel will, it just has a fresh, clean look. I would never go to a brass faucet unless you're investing in Cheryl Wagner and you don't care if you burn your money. I mean, and I don't think that's our audience today. So I would say keeping with nickels. If you can't afford nickel, a polished chrome, it always looks crisp and it always looks clean. And that's, a simple, clean, understated look for sale, I think, because it's not specific to your taste. But if you just bought a home and you're enjoying brass, I say bravo, because I believe in that for a custom interior, and that's obviously what you're doing.
And another question I had in just kind of talking about this topic before the seminar was, yeah, I'd love to get new hardware. I just don't even know where to start. So, I mean, what's your recommendation generally on hardware? Is it keep it just very simple and neutral? I mean,
well, it depends on depends on the vibration of your interior, and certainly the design of your cabinet. I mean, that says everything. And again, going back to if someone wants to take a photo of their cabinet with their existing hardware, I'm glad to jump on a call and talk about the variations and what's offered in the product market today. Certainly going online, we have so many resources for online. And don't forget your interior. If you've got a mid-century vibe, if you're more traditional, if you're more transitional, that's going to lead you to the right piece of jewelry, which is hardware. Your light fixtures, your knobs and pulls, your doorknobs, down to the finishes on your mirrors. Those are all those jewelry bling items. Certainly your lighting. Those are the bling items that add the individual look and make it your home and not somebody else's.
Yeah, I totally agree. And those are easy to, customize to what you want now. And then if you feel like maybe they need to be switched out before you list, that's easy to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to open it up to more questions. One question I had prior to the event actually was, would you recommend, what areas would you recommend for wallpaper, and would like one wall in a living room make sense? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on what you're thinking, and again, what your interiors look like. We love grass cloth, right? Grass cloth is neutral enough, and if you can match your grass cloth, because that will add texture to the paint, you can get a little pop of texture, and it wouldn't be as expensive as grass clothing a whole room, which can be extremely expensive, and a little bit more, it closes in the room a little bit, cozies it up a little bit, and that's a great thing if you want to achieve that feeling. I love wallpaper in small spaces. And for example,
love it in bathrooms, yeah.
A powder room, that's the best way to, bring an individual design. We're shopping for a client that we've done most of her renovation, and we've been working on some fabulous powder room papers, and I can give you 17 different resources for, whether it's zebras jumping on the wall by Scalamandre to something very hand painted by Jennifer Sharpo. I mean, some of these papers are just magnificent, but in a small space, it creates an intimacy and also a take on the homeowner's personality, which of course is why you live where you live, because it speaks to you and your aesthetic.
Yeah, definitely. So if you had to, someone on here who might have bought within the last year or two, probably will be there for another 3 years. What's your biggest advice for them?
Oh, that they're going to want to sell their home in 3 years?
Yes, so they're going to be there enjoying it for another 3
Right.
years.
Enjoy it. Always keep an eye on maintenance. Make sure you are meticulous about maintaining your home well. So the day that you call Meg to say we're ready to put it on the market, when she walks through, she doesn't say you have to do this, this, and this. Another area that we didn't talk, right?
One of my biggest first questions to people is, what deferred maintenance have you been thinking about you need to do and haven't gotten around to?
And these things pop up when we walk through projects, as you know, and we're always glad to handle that and bring our tradespeople in to change things out, but it costs your client more money to use, outside resources to achieve those tasks. Something else, really take a long look at if there's wall-to-wall carpet in a room. If you don't go into that second bedroom and you've allowed the carpet, or maybe you inherited the carpet from a previous owner, take a long look. There might be wood floor under that carpet. And I think, Meg, for you, it's always advisable to have beautiful hardwood floors. Because I always say to people, you don't know what's under them, so why not just show your beautiful floor? You don't have to put an area rug on a floor to sell it, as we know. So that's definitely an area that we're addressing several homes right now because they never pulled the carpet up, and it really shows once you paint a room. Those
Yes.
things really pop up, and there is, we have a budget, so there's only so much.
Buyers don't want to walk through a place and see dollar signs. They want to walk through and have it pretty much be done for them.
They want it in move-in condition, and that's why the clients referred to us, and we're moving them this week. We are literally, tomorrow we're going to oversee the movers. We've already packed them. We've installed their kitchen as of the end of today. We're going to meet the moving truck tomorrow, and we're going to finish their install and art hanging by Friday evening. And that's absolute turnkey service that we offer as well. You know, if they ally themselves with you and with us, they basically can go move in with their parents and let us handle everything, as you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's a secret too.
The only thing they've wanted to handle is the tech. So
I know. No,
making sure it's Amazon friendly.
it's
So
absolutely.
is there a room that you think you get the least bang for your buck in terms of home improvements?
A room?
Yeah, I know my answer to this actually, but I'm curious what you think. A room or an area of the house?
One thing I think that we're all looking at now, so I'm not really answering your question, but I'm going to move it in a different direction. One room that hasn't previously existed in more homes that I think may need to be addressed is a home office. Thinking in the future, I'm very lucky because I've had a home office because I've conducted business for 25 years out of my home, no matter where it is. So I've had dedicated, organized, always ready to go home offices. I think with the economy, and I think with corporations looking at commercial real estate and saying, wow, I've been doing great without my staff coming to a dedicated office every day. There might be split time for offices potentially corporations or companies might encourage their workers, their staff, their management team to work out of their homes, working remotely like we've all been doing and somehow surviving. So I think at-home offices are going to be in high demand, and we are actually developing a whole program for home offices, and I have my first contract as of today. I'm very excited. We've done the space planning. We've done the specification of the furniture, and within 3 weeks, our clients will be able to avail themselves a perfectly installed home office that we can set up their laptops, and we have wire management, and the furniture's been selected, and in about 9 hours, they'll be able to move into their new office and be set up. As this gentleman said, I was working on top of my washing machine because children were screaming in the next room.
Yep.
So I think people are going to be looking at spaces differently because there could be a potential that this goes on for a long time, or more couples and individuals may be working out of their houses.
Right, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just to quickly address the question where you probably don't see a return, I feel like some people overdevelop their roof decks and put way too much money in that they're not gonna, if you put $100,000 into a roof deck, you're not gonna get that back. And that's the biggest one that comes to mind. Kitchens and bathrooms, I think you do generally see
Definitely
on that.
Definitely. You can't lose money for maintaining and upgrading your kitchen and bathroom, because we did a walkthrough of a property yesterday and I said to the homeowner, I believe the buyer today walks in and would prefer to do nothing, but but if you've taken away one of the key items, changing the finishes in the kitchen and repainting the kitchen cabinets and changing the hardware, at least they can move in and say, now we can do the master bath, versus saying, master bath, we need more closet space, we've got to do the kitchen. It's too overwhelming, and it goes back to they can't do it. Certainly that's why we're in business, because we do mild refurbishing all the way through, gut renovations for our clients. So we can handle anything that one of your buyers can't. But generally speaking, you've got to give someone something with which they can work. They just can't be a ground zero and slug through, someone else's dream home that has been dissipated over 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if there's any other questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak up or put something in the chat room. I think, from our conversation today, it sounds like the biggest kind of things people could be doing right now beyond like painting themselves would be just focusing on decluttering and editing their belongings, and then also possibly changing out light fixtures and hardware.
Something else, Meg, I think we want to talk about, because staging is something obviously we do, and we have a wonderful inventory of our own furniture, but I believe at this time of year, especially spring, right? We're always looking for a pop of green, a pop of fresh. I know I'm using a lot of basil. I'm even sprouting my own romaine leaves because I take the end of my romaine, I put it in a beautiful glass, and I've got lettuce leaves growing, which I think is so exciting. This office we're designing, we're designing these glass shelves for in front of a window so we can have aloe plants and all sorts of succulents, as well as their herbs. They're just thrilled with this idea. Might have clients that have, a balcony, again, a roof deck. Bring some color and some green as soon as you can, because I think that all, is very hopeful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not have a green thumb, but I have been buying fresh flowers every time I go to the grocery store.
And that really helps, because why not treat yourself well, right?
Exactly. Yes. Any other questions out there? I know Claudia mentioned her email. She's available for consultations and would love to give 10, 15-minute, FaceTime consultations. I'm always available too if you have questions on, will spending $10,000 on my kitchen get me the return I want? I'm happy to pull comps or, just advise however I can. Any other questions? Claudia, any final words of advice?
Don't spend much money on Wayfair. It breaks my heart. We have wonderful other resources. I know everybody is closed. I know all of my staging resources, even though someone let me in today. I won't tell who it was because we're staging several properties and I needed some fresh lamps. But, look on First Dibs or try to recycle, reuse someone else's beautiful thing, reimagine it, re-envision it. We don't need, more items going in our landfills. Certainly, we don't need more things being shipped around the country needlessly. I think that's something that is it's my personal feeling, and Wayfair could care less that I say it because they're so huge. Certainly Jeff Bezos doesn't care, but I really care about the resources and reimagining and using our creativity at this time. Buy some fabric online and sew up your own pillow slips to give your sofas a new look. I think that's what we're seeing in the world of creative mask wearing. Everyone's wearing creative masks. I think it's so exciting. I can't sew anything short of a button or more than a button, but I think this is a reinventing time, and we have to take it seriously and allow your personality to come through in your beautiful interior. I mean, even a rock that you find on the beach, if you can get to the beach, but just something natural, bringing something natural and beautiful in our home always makes us happier, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much we have one more question. What advice do you have for a buyer that isn't super crafty to help spruce their house up in small ways besides plants?
Besides plants, soft goods, neutralizing your bedding. That's something I failed to mention, so thank you for bringing that up. When Meg sells a piece of property and we're preparing it for market, we always neutralize bedding. We always put crisp duvet covers on. We put Euro shams or 4 standard pillows with 4 crisp pillowcases, a crisp white bed skirt, no matter what size the bed. That will make your bedroom pop. You can still add your pops of color with pillows that you have around the home. Lampshades. And lampshades are some of the most underrated accessories. For under $100, you can take a very normal looking lamp and with a crisp white or crisp linen, very, very, very crisp, not pleated, not dusty lampshade, you can absolutely revolutionize a lamp that you think, oh, it's so old. So start envisioning ways, for under $200, you can bring new life into the room. Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if everyone heard that, but I just took a screenshot so that we have social proof of all of us here today. So I really appreciate everyone coming on. We have thank you, Claudia, so much for your time and all your advice. Thank you, Carolyn, too. So I'm excited to see what they do with their master bath and kitchen. I'm trying to do these 30 Minutes to Thrive seminars, taking place of the in-person events. I'm working with a photographer to do like intro to photography, how to take better photos, hopefully having one with about creating your own grazing platters. So if you have ideas on, flower arranging, baking, doesn't have to be real estate related, let me know. And hope to see everyone back soon.
Thank you, Meg. I really appreciate spending time with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye.